Hi guys, and welcome to another State of the Collection video. These have become like the traditional videos that I do at the end of each year. And I know you're watching this on the 1st of 2023, but as you can see by the date on these watches, I'm actually recording this on the 31st of December 2022, so it is the end of 2022 State of the Collection. Because of all the old viewers that know most of my watches, we'll start with the new acquisitions. And the 2022 was a very successful year for me when it comes to getting watches. But despite getting some really cool grails, 3 in total that I always wanted, they're kind of overshadowed by the birth of my son. So that was the event that marked 2022 for me, and these watches were just a bonus, if you like. So we'll start with new ones so the old viewers get to see the new stuff, and then we're gonna move our way forward or backwards, however you want to go, to the older watches. I also tried to put them in a box to make some sense. I don't usually hold them like this, but I tried to make them kind of organized. So here you have the Seiko 5s, here you have Soviet watches, here you have micro brand watches, here you have Rolex, here you have high-end Seikos, and here like a historic Doxa, my Reverso, and here we have Casio watches. So let's start with the ones that I got this year. The first grail I got this year in 2022 was this, the ProTrek PRT-40, a watch I always wanted. This was the first watch that I fell in love with because I was just like a 9 or 10-year-old kid when this came out. It was in the window. In the window of the shop. I used to use every free moment I had to go and glance at it, imagine how it is to play with it, but it was very expensive back then, and it was something I knew I couldn't afford. So it took me about 30 years to finally get one. It's a legendary triple sensor, and I absolutely love this watch. And then a call came for the Submariner. I already did the full review of pretty much all of these watches. Again, a watch I always wanted. The last generation, the previous generation, I explained in my videos why I didn't get that one. The minute hand was too short, the hour hand was too thin, the lugs were massive, the bracelet was kind of narrow compared to the case. With this 41mm Submariner, which is actually 40 point something, not a true 41, they fixed all the pet peeves I had about the previous generation. Once I got it, pretty much all the other watches just sat in the box, and I wore it for months without taking it off, and I already did put some scratches on the clasp, some on the bracelet, and I believe the case is still pretty much okay, but if I continue to wear it, it's not gonna be. But since I don't plan on selling any of these watches, they're probably gonna all be in my permanent collection. Then after that, I did not expect that to happen, but since I had to wait for the Submariner a year and a half, I kept saving up for my next purchase, which was the Speedmaster Professional, the Omega Speedmaster Professional, the 3861. Again, another watch that I always liked and always wanted because I'm a bit of a space nerd, but one that was also ruined for me in the previous generation only due to the massive bracelet, the T-shaped end links that increased the watch to 54 lug to lug, which is way too much for my 6.7-inch wrist. When Omega made announcement of this, and when I saw the bracelet, I immediately made a video commenting on the bracelet alone. A lot of people did the dot over 90 and all those other improvements, which are an improvement, and this dial, which is more true to the original. But for me, the biggest update was the bracelet. So kind of decided to put my money where my mouth is and actually buy it. And I absolutely love this watch. Ever since I got it, it hasn't left my wrist. I love it as much as the Submariner, but the bracelet on this is much more comfortable. The bracelet on the Submariner is massive, heavy, very sturdy, but this gives a vintage vibe. It just drapes down your wrist. It is amazing and the most comfortable bracelet I've ever worn. If they included the on-the-fly adjustment like the glide lock on the Rolex, this would be absolutely perfect. I would have no problems or any kind of bad things to say about it. That's a shame they didn't include, but even like this, because of the size of my wrist, I actually found the perfect fit, and I absolutely love this watch. So that's it when it comes to these new from 2022, except for one more, and that's this watch. I still haven't featured it on the channel, so I won't cover it in detail because the unboxing is coming up in a couple of days, followed by a full review. This is a Venezianico GMT, Nereide GMT, that was sent to me to do a review. And in the unboxing, I mean, in the pictures, the watch was just an okay watch. It was actually the first watch to offer the NH34 GMT movement. Then when I started to spend some time with it, when I started to shoot it with macro lens for the review, I absolutely fell in love with it. And I asked them if I get to keep the watch. I was even willing to pay because I absolutely love the proportions, the style, everything. This rose gold and the black is just amazing. The bezel, the way it plays with the light, I mean, you will see in the full review. In the unboxing, so, but in the full review, this thing just comes alive, especially when you're outside. A very surprised addition to the collection because I never heard of them. Like I said, when they sent the pictures, I was like, okay, so a nice GMT watch. I wanted to cover it because it had the Seiko NH34, but once it arrived and I put it on my wrist, I was absolutely blown away. So do stay tuned for the unboxing and the full review of this piece. So these are all the watches that I got in 2022. So from now on, we can go in some kind of order covering the brands. So the first two we're going to cover are the G-Shocks. The DW5000 SL, the first G-Shock I ever bought and my favorite G-Shock to date. It's a screwback with a stainless steel case and a screw-in case back. I modded it by putting this gold lettered bezel and strap because I believe it should have come from the factory like that. The SL came with white lettering here while having the gold lettering on the screen, which was kind of wrong for me. So once that bezel and strap was destroyed, because this was the most worn watch in my collection, I ordered a new one, but from the gold colored DW5600, and it fit like a dream and it transformed the watch. The reason I'm not wearing it so much anymore is because I love the look of this matte, new matte bezel and strap. I just don't feel like destroying it. So I do wear it, but not nearly as much as I did. I always wear it when I know I'm not gonna get it dirty or rub my sleeves on it. So even though it's a G-Shock that's been with me through hell and back, it's now like a safe queen that I only wear in special occasions. The other G-Shock is the GW6900. Even to this day, this is one of the best bang for buck watches you can buy. Solar, atomic, world time, countdown timer, stopwatch, perpetual calendar, you name it. And a true backlight that glows the whole screen. It doesn't use those stupid LEDs on the side. Amazing watch, iconic design. It's always going to be in my collection. I do wear it and it does show. It gets scratched and everything, but I absolutely love this watch. Okay, let's move on to the Seiko 5s. Let me just zoom out. So we have the SNX 111, which was the second Seiko 5 I bought right after the SNK. This thing is Seiko 5 at its best. I love this thing. I also did a full review. I love the simplicity of the dial, of the markers, and the fact that the markers have like a black line on them as well as the hands, so it's a very legible watch. You cannot find yourself in a situation where you won't be able to read the time. This was one of my most worn watches, as you can see by the clasp, by the bracelet. It does show some wear. I used to put it on a leather strap, but always come back to this bracelet. The bracelet is flimsy, but it kind of adds to the charm of the watch. It just wears so comfortably, even though it's like a jingly-jangly mess. I do love it, and again, it's another one that's never gonna leave my collection. Okay, covered the second Seiko 5 in the collection, which used to be an SNK 805, which was the green dialed aviator style, but it had those very short hands that, if you follow my channel, you know I hate those. So I had to mod it, and I first modded by buying longer hands, but then I disliked the fact that the SNK 805 in its stock form has the lume as those dots around the dial, and they're all the same. So in the dark, and again, it was one of the watches that I wore the most, in the dark, I couldn't tell where 12 o'clock is, and I do wear my watches sometimes when I sleep, so I switched to this dial from another Seiko 5 that adds the 12, 6, and 9. It used to come with a mineral crystal. I modded it with a sapphire. It's also the only Seiko 5 I ever had serviced, and it actually got a different balance from an older vintage Seiko, and it's kept excellent time since then. Also very much a worn watch. Next we come to my Soviet watches. We have the Sturmansky and the Amphibia. The Amphibia next to my G-Shock is probably the most worn watch in my collection, and you can see it. I did a 5-year update recently, and you can tell by the crystal and by the condition of the case just how much I love and wear this watch. It will get an update to the brushing that I did, pretty amateur-like, because I found a watchmaker, that dude that does the laser welding, and sometime in February he's gonna have a slot where I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna give it to him so that he can do a professional level of brushed finish to bring this back to its original glory. Love this thing. It's cheap, it's cheerful, but it's built like a tank. Okay, moving on. We have the Sturmansky, the military version. 31659 movement, which is a modified 3133 that comes with hacking, and also the case is moved from the traditional civilian one, which is chrome plated brass, to a stainless steel one. Very cool watch. I love the colorway. I love the color coding of the hands, where you can clearly see which ones are used for main time and which ones are used for the chronograph. One of the few watches that actually went to space, and you couldn't buy these. These were military issued. You had the civilian version that you could actually purchase, but you can find these on eBay or somewhere. My friend got it for me in Russia because he used to work there. Love this watch. It's never gonna leave my collection as well. Then we come to the first micro brand watch that I ever decided to keep, and the Venezianico is the second one. And that's the Zelos Hammerhead. In 2021 or 2020, this was almost exclusively the watch that was on my wrist. I never took it off. I got it, I recorded the review, I put it up for sale. Then when I had another Zelos coming in, I decided to take this out of the box to compare them, and once I strapped it on my wrist, I just fell in love. So it was like falling in love on the second, not on the at first sight, but second sight. The way the bracelet is met with the case, with absolutely no play, no give, no space between. The tolerances are so small that I still, to this day, cannot believe this is a $350 watch. I mean, the movement is the Seiko NH35, but the rest of the watch is way above its price point. Coming with an on-the-fly adjustment, amazing bracelet, amazing clasp. Definitely one of the best micro-brand watches you can buy. Then we come to the Rolex, the Explorer. 114270 36mm Explorer. I also did a review recently. It's different. I mean, I thought when I got it, the Rolex was offering the 39mm. Then they reissued the 36, and I was like, oh my god, this watch is gonna become obsolete. The new one has better lume, has lume 369, has a better bracelet, better clasp. But after trying the new one, this one does have different proportions. It's longer, slightly smaller like this, and it's not as chunky. The text is smaller, everything is smaller on it, and it just kind of works. I still like it better than the new one. The new one is a better watch, no questions asked. But this is something I prefer over the new one. Also the bracelet, because it's a mix of solid and hollow links, but with solid end links. And this clasp that looks like the one on the Seiko 5, but it's actually much better. Just make it a perfect balance between that vintage feel and a modern Rolex. It's not as chunky, it's not as massive, but it just somehow works. It is smaller than I expected, because when you put it on the wrist, you realize that the face is quite small, but somehow because of its length, it just works on my wrist, and I absolutely love it. Okay, moving on. We have the King Seiko 45, a watch that I just had to have, and I was hunting for this one for years until I found one that was in the condition that I like, for the price that I like. 45 movement, true high beat, 36,000 beats per hour. It's a manual wind, and I actually paid, I believe, $100 or $150 to get this custom made case back. And they pop up on Yahoo Auctions Japan from time to time because the guy does them by hand. So every couple of months they're going to show up, and then people bid. Sometimes you get them cheaper, sometimes expensive, and they can go up to $200 or $300. I absolutely love this watch. The grammar of design of the Grand Seiko is one of the best examples on this King Seiko, which is amazing. I mean, look at the lines on this. One of the most beautiful and most intriguing cases I have ever seen. This is the watch that stops me from getting a modern Grand Seiko, because this one does the grammar of design to perfection, but unlike modern Grand Seikos, this is very thin. This is, I believe, 9 millimeters or something like that. Modern Grand Seikos, despite being like designed to look like this, are like 12.5 or 13. Now they're trying to make them thinner, but still they're miles ahead, I mean miles behind this thing. And look at the dial, look at the hands. I mean, this watch is just amazing. One of the most beautiful watches I've ever seen, and one of the most interesting. Then, speaking of the beauty, we come to the Laurel, one of the rare regular Seikos that are actually precious metal. This is a combination of 18 karat gold, which is used for the bezel, so solid gold, not gold plated, and sterling silver for the case. I do have to clean it. I do have some rags that actually clean this, and it becomes so shiny, and it has such a warm shine to it that it makes steel watches look dull. It is one of the most beautiful watches I have ever seen, and these were made for about 2 years. They were actually the training ground for Seiko to launch Grand Seiko. When they were coming back and decided to do to step into high-end watchmaking, they realized they don't have the know-how, so they resurrected an old vintage King or Grand Seiko movement and used this watch as an exercise. Once they completed the Laurel line, which was like in production for, like I said, 2 years, then they started relaunching Grand Seiko. An amazing watch, a very rare watch that not many people know of, but again, like I said, one of the most beautiful I have ever seen. In beauty, it's only matched to my Reverso. The Reverso Duo Face, when I got it, like on the pictures, and you get all that hype and everything, and then sometimes watches disappoint you, but with this one, the hype is real. It wasn't as popular when I was getting it, but there were some people saying that it's one of the best watches ever when it comes to the looks, timeless design, blah blah blah. And I loved the backstory, because this, believe it or not, is the original G-Shock. G-Shock was launched in the 80s to be a shock-resistant watch. This was launched in the 20s or 30s as the first ever shock-resistant watch for polo players, because the original Reverso has a metal case back. So you can flip it, hide the crystal, so if you hit it, you're not going to damage it. Since over time they started to become more of a dress watch, they're not considered a sports watch anymore. JLC decided to add additional complications on the back, and this was actually the first model to add a complication. In this case, it's a dual time function. So you have a GMT function here, and you have the regular time here. Because I like the look of this side better, I actually wear it like this for about 95% of the time. So I would actually be okay even with a regular Reverso, but you can't beat the look on people's faces when you flip it and they realize there's a whole new watch on the other side. That thing is priceless. Anyways, another watch I love, and like I said, one of the most beautiful. And lastly, we come to the Doxa, 1960s Doxa, manual wind, 35 millimeters. A beautiful watch that was actually bought to me by my then girlfriend, now wife. So that's the reason it's never gonna leave my collection. I used to wear it every day, but then I realized that I'm damaging the acrylic crystals, so I stopped, and I do wear it on special occasions. And that's pretty much it. There is one more watch, Casio watch, that's missing here because I actually left it at the get-together that I also posted a video of, and one of my colleagues picked it up for me. He just didn't have time to send it to me, and we haven't met since then. And that's that small solar Casio, and I'll put a clip of it right here so you can see what I think. So you can see what I'm talking about. I love that watch, the geekiness of it, and it's amazing, and again, another one that's not gonna leave my collection. Anyways, that's it when it comes to my state of the collection. That's become a 20-minute video. I'm just looking at the camera and I cannot believe it. Anyways, that's it. I hope you have a great 2023. I hope it's half as good as mine was when it comes to 2022, because like I said, A Birth of the Sun, PRT-40, Submariner, and Speedmaster. I mean, as a human being and as a watch lover, what more can you want? Thank you all for watching, for following me for this long, and we'll see you in 2023, which actually is already. So like I said, this is recorded one day before. So I wish you to keep following me. I wish you all get your grails in this year. I'm pretty much done now. I don't know, I'll probably add some more interesting watches, but when it comes to the watches that I always wanted, there are always some other models, but I'm pretty satisfied with what I got. Anyways, that's it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, and a Happy New Year. Bye.